They thought the story ended when Ethan Carter was exposed. But in New York, men like him don't disappear quietly. They reappear darker, angrier, and armed with nothing left to lose. Before I continue with this story, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. If you want more stories like this, tell us in the comment which city you're watching from, and then we'll continue with the story. New York teaches you two things fast: how to move and how to look over your shoulder while you move. I'd learned both. After the article broke and Ethan's firm cut him loose, I poured myself into work, galas, fundraisers, and contracts. Reporters called me the wife who outplayed Wall Street. They loved the headline. They didn't ask where I kept the fear. Because fear lives everywhere, in the hum of the elevator, the glare of a cab headlight, and the echo of footsteps half a block behind yours. I told myself the story was over. But in this city, endings don't walk. They stalk. I'm Rachel Carter, and if you read the Times piece, you know the bones: husband, affairs, money siphoned, alias, and lies. You know I allied with Lauren Mitchell, the mistress who didn't think she was one, and Sarah Miller, the fiancé who never got a wedding, only empty accounts. Together, we cracked the veneer off a man who wore suits like armor. Now the invitations had my name alone. The Riverside Conservancy Gala booked my firm. A senator's re-election fundraiser wanted our staging. Clients whispered, "We stand with you," as if they were confessing a sin and absolving it in one breath. I slept with the alarm set to chime and bark, two security apps the internet swore by. I installed a new deadbolt on the brownstone. I left a pair of Ethan's cufflinks on the dresser as a reminder: monsters don't vanish. They molt. Lauren came in early, left late, and built a lattice of sanity around my days: vendors scheduled, budgets tight, staff protected from my turbulence. Sometimes I caught her looking at the street from our office window on East 58th, eyes narrowed like the skyline was a puzzle she could solve by will. Sarah got a temp job at a midtown law firm. She sent me photos of lunch eaten alone on the Bryant Park benches. She was rebuilding her credit like a person laying bricks with numb hands. I told both of them, "If he tries anything, you call me first, then 911. We agreed, we nodded, we pretended the world was a contract you could enforce by signature. For 11 days, the city pretended to be ordinary. The first knock wasn't on my door. It was on Sarah's. She called me at 2:07 a.m., breath in shards. "Someone's been in my apartment." I was out of bed and lacing my boots before she finished the sentence. Brooklyn to the Upper West Side at 2 in the morning is a tunnel of lights and bad choices. I made the only good one. I ran red lights that looked lonely. Sarah's door showed no damage. Inside, nothing was stolen. Nothing broken, except the feeling that objects were where you left them. Her drawers were open by an inch. Her closet door was ajar. On the bathroom mirror, written in lipstick, 3 looping words like a stranger's signature: "You can't erase me." We waited 2 hours for a patrol car. The officer was polite, exhausted, and practical. "No sign of forced entry," he said, writing. "Any ex-boyfriends? Anyone with a key?" "Only my landlord," Sarah said, swallowing. "And I changed the lock last week." He handed her a card and said the words that sound like help until they don't: "We'll keep an eye out." When he left, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the lipstick like it were an altar. "He watched me sleep," she whispered. "He stood in this room and watched me sleep." I said we were changing her lock again. I said we'd add a camera. What I didn't say, I recognized the shade. Wine red. Ethan had bought the same color for me 3 Christmases ago. He loved how it looked like confidence. Men like him repurpose everything: money, stories, women, even colors. 2 nights later, Lauren sent a photo from West 52nd Street. A reflection in a shop window, a man across the street, face turned, hands deep in a coat, posture like a held breath. The next day, someone slipped a yellow cab receipt into her tote: a ride from Murray Hill to Queens, signed with the alias "I could taste like acid." D. Cross. That night she stood in my office, white at the knuckles, the city a bruise behind her. "He's playing games," she said. "Breadcrumbs and shadows." "Breadcrumbs lead somewhere," I said. "We follow." "But to whom? And where?" On Monday, a package arrived at the office downstairs. No return address. The florist carried it up with pity arranged on her face. Inside, a gray leather planner, identical to the two before it. This one had 3 names embossed in gold: Sarah, Lauren, and Rachel. Inside, photos. Printed, not digital. Old school, like he wanted to leave fingerprints and knew he wouldn't. I locked my brownstone door. Sarah, entering the 1 train at 79th Street. Lauren, tapping out a text while crossing Lexington. Different days. Similar times. 6:30 p.m. Like he was reclaiming Tuesdays and making them his again. On the last page, a note in block letters. "Your move." I walked to the window and looked down at 58th Street. Cabs. Steam. A man with a dog that barked at taxis like they were arguments he could win. Somewhere in all that motion, a boundary had been crossed. This wasn't just humiliation anymore. It was a map. "Police," Lauren said. "White collar or stalking?" I asked. "Both. We filed reports NYPD 17th Precinct for harassment and the White Collar Task Force for the older financial crimes." A detective with coffee breath and compassion said what I already knew: he's smart. He'll inch right up to the line and whisper through it. "Then we move the line," I said, and he almost smiled before remembering that paperwork is not a weapon. "We set rules: paired exits, Uber codes shared, 2 rings, then a text every night when home." I hired a security consultant who looked like a librarian and spoke like a drill sergeant. Doorbell cams. Panic key fobs. She taught us how to hold our keys, how to scan a street, and how to tell the difference between coincidence and choreography. For 2 days, the city held its breath, and so did we. On the 3rd day, my office landline rang. It was a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave one. He called again. And again. On the 5th call, I picked up and said nothing. His voice was velvet soaked in gasoline. "Hello, Ratch." I hadn't heard from him since the night he stormed out. "It's Rachel," I said flatly. "What a show you put on," he purred. "Article. Contracts. Cameras. Tell me, do reporters taste like victory? Or just ink?" "Stop calling," I said. "You can't erase me," he whispered, and the line went dead. I called the detective. He said what he had to: keep a log. Save the number list. If he threatened violence, call immediately. I hung up and stared at the phone like it might apologize. I didn't say this out loud: I hadn't heard a threat. I'd heard a promise. Sarah, it turned out, had a gift for money trails. She traced small recurring transfers from Ethan's old Shell LLC to a cash-checking spot in Astoria, Queens, just under thresholds that flag audits. Lauren learned from an agency friend that a Daniel Cross had rented co-working space for mornings at a place on Steinway Street, cash paid, with a copy of a driver's license that would pass at a glance and dissolve under light. We went to Queens in daylight like tourists with a mission. The co-working manager shrugged. "Nice enough guy. Kept to himself. 6 to 9 a.m. most days. Liked the window seat. Said he was consulting." "What did he consult on?" I asked. "People," the manager said, and smiled like it was a joke. It wasn't. At the cash spot, the clerk shook his head. "We don't keep faces," he said. "Just receipts." "Do you keep camera footage?" Lauren asked. He looked at us the way the city looks at you when you ask it for a favor, amused and sad. "You think we keep anything that gets us in trouble?" We left with nothing but a street that smelled like cumin and rain and a certainty: he was close. Lauren suggested bait. "He thinks I'm weak," she said. He thinks I miss him. That's the story he tells himself to stay whole. So let's hand him that story, then rip it away. We staged a text thread on a new number. I keep thinking about you. I hate that I do. One drink, somewhere quiet. No drama. Just closure. He bid in under an hour. Tonight. 9 p.m. Jackson Heights. Fins. Fins is not a place for closure. It's a place for men who like television loud and decisions louder. We chose it because it had sight lines and exits, and because in rooms like that, people don't look at anyone who isn't a game. I wired Lauren with a button cam and mic. I sat 2 tables behind her with a ball cap and a book I didn't read. Sarah waited outside in a parked rideshare with the engine on and a prayer repeating in her fist. At 9:06, he arrived. Not the surgical Wall Street predator the magazines ran, but a man eroded. The trimmed beard, gone to stubble. Eyes red-rimmed like bad nights. The jacket was a size too big, as if he'd borrowed a skin. He slid into the booth opposite Lauren and smiled the way liars smile when they think they own the room. There she is, he said. Knew you couldn't stay away. Lauren's voice was steady. I came to say something I should have said sooner. What's that? Thank you, she said, and he blinked. For showing me exactly how small you are. His smile cracked. Don't play games. We're past games, she said. We're at consequences. He leaned in, venom wrapped in sugar. Careful. You don't know what I'm capable of. Oh, she said softly. But we do. I texted now to Sarah. She called 911 on the harassment suspect at Finn's and a restraining order that we'd filed. In New York, police response is a roulette wheel. That night, the ball favored us. Ethan reached across the table and grabbed Lauren's wrist, hard. I stood. So did 3 men at the bar who thought they were about to be heroes. Ethan released her like he'd touched a socket, scanned the room, saw me, and the world narrowed. Rachel, he said, as if the name might conjure a different ending. I nodded at the door. 2 officers entered, shoulders squared. It took everything in me not to enjoy the half-step he took backward, that animal flinch when a predator senses a bigger one. No arrest. A warning. A record of interaction. A piece of paper that wouldn't stop a bullet but might slow a hand. When the officers left, Ethan stared at us, lips parted, a laugh lodged somewhere it couldn't escape. You think you can call cops into a war, he said. You declared it when you sent that article. Now there are no rules. He left like smoke, slipping between bodies and out into a city that forgives velocity. Outside, Sarah leaned on the rideshare wheel and cried the kind of tears that don't make a sound. Lauren rubbed her wrist and said she was fine twice before admitting it hurt. I stood on the sidewalk and watched a train rack by on the elevated tracks, car after car like a bright, endless warning. What now? Lauren asked. Now he escalates, I said. Because humiliation is a fire, and men like him only know how to feed it. We doubled security. Window sensors. A second lock on Sarah's door. I moved a box cutter into the kitchen drawer like I was rearranging cutlery to suit a recipe. We told the detective. He told us to be careful walking at night. Everyone gives the advice they wish would work. Work didn't stop just because we were living in a thriller. The senator's fundraiser at the plaza demanded rehearsals, staging, and donors coddled like feral cats. Lauren ran the load-in like a general. Sarah took a half-day to help backstage and to breathe air that didn't taste like fear. An hour before doors, I stood in the ballroom, checked my cue list, and told the lighting tech to warm the stage by 2 degrees. The chandelier hissed, pleased. Donors trickled in like pearls on a string. And then I saw him, across the room, near the back, no ticket, no tux, just a dark jacket and a face that stole oxygen. He didn't look at the senator. He looked at me. I tapped my earpiece. Lauren, I said, my voice a thread. Back corner, near the Fernand Léger. He's here. I see him, she said. Security? Quiet, I said. Public scenes feed men like him. Get plaza security. Discreet. I moved toward the stage to be visible, to be untouchable. He drifted along the wall like a thought you don't want but can't unthink. A security guard intercepted him, 2 words, a hand gesture, and an escort to the door. Ethan didn't resist. He smiled as he left, small and private, like a man who knows where the exits are because he installed them. The fundraiser hit its numbers. Cameras loved the senator. The donor wall glowed. On paper, it was a perfect night. We went home to our separate rooms with our separate locks and dreamed of footsteps we couldn't locate. 2 mornings later, I woke to silence. No emails from Lauren by 7, unusual. I texted. No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. My stomach turned to ice. I grabbed a coat, didn't wait for the elevator, and ran the brownstone stairs 2 at a time. East 58th Street was a smear, my thoughts were only names. Lauren, answer. Lauren, please. I reached the office and found the door unlocked. Inside was order. Computer asleep, coffee mug clean, not a paper out of place. On Lauren's desk, a single item that did not belong. A gray planner. This one is embossed with Lauren. My phone rang. Unknown. I answered and didn't speak. Ethan's voice slid through the line like a knife's shadow. Looking for something? Where is she? My voice came from somewhere I didn't recognize. Alive, he said. For now. Isn't suspense delicious? You lay a hand on her. Oh, Ratch, he said, mocking, you don't get to set terms anymore. You broke the rules. Now we play mine. The line clicked dead. I called Lauren again. Nothing. I called Sarah. He has her, I said. He has Lauren. Sarah was already in motion. Tracking? She asked. Lauren's phone location was off. But her company AirTag, hidden in her tote lining because I trust tech more than promises, pinged a block radius near Sunnyside, Queens. An old warehouse row, some converted, some not. I called 911. I called the detective directly. I didn't wait for either. Sarah met me at the curb with a look that said we're doing this and a flashlight that said we might regret it. Queens barreled by, Midtown Tunnel, 39th Place, Skillman Avenue, until the map turned to a grid of loading docks and rolling gates. The AirTag pinged to a building with painted-over signage and windows that remembered being glass. We didn't push the gate. That's how horror movies start. We circled to the alley and found a side door ajar. My body wanted to run. My mind made me kneel and listen first. Inside, the hum of old lights, the drip of old pipes, a voice, hers, ragged but alive. Lauren, I whispered, stepping in, it's us. Don't, she said. He's right here, Ethan said, from the shadow, and stepped forward with a length of pipe in his hand like punctuation. Sarah gasped. I lifted my hands, palms out, the universal sign for let's talk. My knees shook, but my voice found bedrock. Ethan, this is done. He laughed. Done? You don't get to end my story. You humiliated me. You burned it all down. And you think you get to walk away with a headline? No, Rachel. If I can't have the life I built, I will disassemble yours piece by piece. Then start with me, I said, stepping closer so he'd have to look at me and not at the women behind me. Leave them out. Always the martyr, he sneered. You don't understand what you took from me. You took it, I said. You stole it from yourself every Tuesday at 6:30. For a second, his face split, rage, shame, boy, man, mask, all of it surfacing like a drowned thing. Sirens wailed, far away and then closer. His eyes flicked to the door. Calculation. He dropped the pipe and bolted. We ran after him. Lauren stumbled, Sarah grabbed her. I hit the alley on his heels, the night cutting my lungs, the sirens approach a rope I wouldn't let go. Ethan cleared the corner. I did too, and stopped dead. At the far end of the alley, a sedan idled, headlights off. A man leaned on the hood, smoking, unconcerned. Ethan ran to the passenger side. The man flicked his cigarette and opened the door. "Who?" I started. Ethan looked back at me and smiled, not his charm smile, not his predator smile. Something worse. Relief. He slid into the sedan. It peeled away, tires whispering on wet asphalt, gone before the patrol car hit the block. The officers found us shaking, Lauren bruised but standing, and Sarah white as a paper promise. Statements, flashlights, questions. The old building gave up nothing. The alley kept its secrets. Back home, sunlight arrived rude and unforgiving. I sat at my kitchen table and wrote everything down so it couldn't move in my head. He had help. Someone drove him. Someone waited. Someone invested. Men like him always have a hedge. We decided to sleep in shifts for a few nights. I took first watch on my brownstone couch with a blanket and a mug that forgot what warmth was. Around 3:17 a.m., a car door slammed outside. Footsteps. My stomach braced. Nothing came. The footsteps passed. New York moved on. I must have dozed. At 6:02 a.m., my alarm chirped. I stretched, stood, and froze. The front door, still deadbolt. The windows, latched. The kitchen, as I left it. But the dining room is different. On the table sat our wedding photo. It used to live in the bedroom. Turned face down in a drawer because I didn't have the heart to throw it away. Now it sat upright. The glass shattered but was still clinging, cracks spidering through our smiles. Across the photo, in red marker, 3 words. Till death, Rachel. My phone buzzed. A text from a blocked number. No words. Just a location pin. Greenwood Cemetery. Brooklyn. 8 p.m. Sarah called, I sent her the photo. She swore, then caught her breath and said, "We tell the police." "We don't go." Lauren texted, "I'm okay." He had help. "Don't go alone." I stared at the pin. A cemetery at night is drama. It's also isolation. He wanted me somewhere with few witnesses and fewer cameras. He wanted me scared. He wanted a stage. The city outside my window glittered like a lure. I held the phone and felt something I hadn't felt since the day I found the first planner, not rage. Not grief. Resolve. I called the detective. He said, "We'll be nearby if you insist." I heard the unspoken, "Don't insist." I told him I'd think about it. I didn't add that I'd already made up my mind. Because sometimes the only way to end a hunt is to walk into the woods with a light and dare the wolf. I took the shattered photo, slid it into a plastic sleeve like evidence, and laid it beside the gray planner with our names. Patterns tell stories. Stories reveal predators. Predators make mistakes when they think the ending belongs to them. At 7:41 p.m., I put on a black coat, slipped a small recorder into my pocket, and texted our group thread, "Share live location. Do not approach. If I'm not moving by 8:20, call." I stepped into the night. New York breathed. The sky tilted toward storm or forgiveness. In this city, they look the same. Greenwood's gates rose like the mouth of a story that eats its readers. I walked in, gravel loud underfoot, gravestones pale witnesses. Past the chapel. Past the statue with the missing hands. Past the pond that holds secrets because water is good at that. At 8:03, my phone vibrated. Another text, another pin, deeper in. He was leading. I was following, but not blindly. The recorder warmed in my pocket like a small heartbeat. Around the bend, under a cedar that held onto its shadow like a habit, I saw it, a sedan idling, headlights off. The passenger door cracked. A figure stepped out. Not Ethan. A man I recognized only from a distance, the smoke outside the warehouse, the unbothered posture, the way danger sometimes looks like boredom. He smiled, small, and lifted a hand like we were neighbors at a mailbox. "Evening, Miss Carter," he said. Voice smooth. Accent local. Ethan sends his regrets. He's tied up. "Who are you?" I asked, keeping my feet planted and my face steady. He took a step closer. "I'm the man who fixes things for people who pay on time." He cocked his head. "And you've broken something very valuable." Behind him, in the car's back seat, something moved. A shape. Bound hands. A muffled sound that found its way into my bones. "Lauren?" I said, my voice cracking for the first time that night. The man's smile widened. "Consider this a negotiation." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. On the screen, a live video, Ethan, in some dim room, face bruised, pride edited out. He looked scared. Really scared. "Turns out," the man said pleasantly, "your husband made promises to people who do not feature in your little newspaper stories. People who prefer their money back without reporters. He owes. You cost him his job. So now, Ms. Carter, Rachel, you are going to fix it." He tilted the phone so Ethan's eyes met mine through pixels and dread. "Ratch, don't," he started, and the man tapped the screen to mute him like an ad. "2 million, the man said, as if asking for a tip. 72 hours. Clean wire. You'll get your assistant back. You'll get your husband back, for whatever value he holds. You don't pay," he gestured to the cemetery. "Well. We all return to the earth." My mouth went dry. "I don't have that money." "You do," he said calmly. "Or your clients do. Or the donors you charm. Or the senator who enjoys your lights. New York is very generous when properly asked." The night pressed in. Somewhere, a siren wailed and forgot us. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah, "We're close. Lights off. Say a word if you see us." I didn't look down. I didn't move. 72 hours, the man repeated. "We'll be in touch." He slid back into the car. The backseat shape, Lauren, called my name through the tape, a sound like a bird hitting glass. The car pulled away, taillights briefly red as open wounds, then gone, swallowed by the cemetery's dark throat and the city's wider one. I stood under the cedar, the recorder hot, the air thin. My phone chimed. A new message. Another gray planner emoji. A single line. Partnership proposal. I stared at the screen and understood something I hadn't wanted to. This was bigger than Ethan now. Bigger than affairs. Bigger than humiliation. He hadn't just fallen, he'd dragged us into a network that considered human lives line items. 72 hours. New York doesn't give you time. It sells it back at a price. I texted Sarah one word, out. Then another, plan. Under the cedar, between the dead and the living, I made a decision I would have called monstrous a month ago and necessary tonight. If I had to choose between saving the women and saving the man who shattered us, I already knew the answer. I walked toward the gate, toward the storm that finally chose to break. And as the first hard drops hit the gravel, I realized the old story was done. This was the new one. The one where I learned that sometimes justice isn't exposure. Sometimes, it's execution.